non-judgment, and true cord cutting. When we speak of non-judgment, oftentimes it's something that can be overlooked or bypassed because we can kind of fake ourselves to believe that we're not judging, but we allow ourselves to do it anyway subconsciously. What does that mean? If you catch yourself speaking in a sarcastic way or mentioning, gossiping, chit-chatting about a lot of things unknowingly and unconsciously, chances are there is some kind of judgment in those words, in those thoughts, in those actions. It's so tricky because we're raised and programmed to basically judge our environment at all times in order to understand our reality. So from a very young age, we're taught judgment. And we're taught judgment as a way of survival. You have to be able to judge your surrounding and the people around you in order to survive. And so it was taught to us from the very best place it could have been. And yet, as we grow up, we get caught up in the game of judgment. And the game of judgment is one that will, without a doubt, close your heart. And so when we talk about healing the womb, how can we heal something that is so deep and so sacred to our beingness and to our connection to the divine feminine and still have judgment within? Now, you don't have to be a saint, right? There's judgment inherently in this reality, so it will happen. But how do you step towards the path of non-judgment? It's a practice. It's a muscle that needs to be trained just like any other discipline. So before we talk about judgment, I want to go a little bit deeper into forgiveness, which is one of the foundations of what we spoke about in healing. So true forgiveness, the real forgiveness, is the ability to take on responsibility for yourself. So if you ever want to know, have I truly forgiven this person? Have I truly forgiven myself? That's what it comes down to. It's not truly forgiving the other person. It's, have I taken full responsibility? Even if you have to forgive yourself, have I taken full responsibility for X, Y, and Z? You have to be able to turn the situation around and make yourself the center of your own universe. Make yourself the center of the experience. And from this place, you can start to activate true forgiveness. You're never really forgiving the other. You're simply taking responsibility and forgiving yourself. And when you can start to take that flip and that approach, that's when you'll be able to go deeper into the codes of forgiveness and go deeper into the healing of the womb. And again, these are the codes of the divine feminine, because these codes are the ones that open our heart exponentially into deeper realms of true love, which is the definition of the divine feminine. So full forgiveness is that stepping stone into the true love. Full forgiveness of self, really. And so this leads us into giving up judgment. Judgment of other, judgment of self, judgment of the experience, of the circumstance, of the situation. And this is very important because when we can give up the judgment, we can start to step into our true power. For as long as you point the finger towards another, you are giving up your power. But when you can turn the finger back at yourself, this is when you can stand in your own power. This is when you can start to activate your true frequency of love. This is when you can go deeper into your womb space and activate deeper the relationship with the divine feminine, when you truly stand in your power. Now, let's be very clear that there is a difference between judgment and discernment. So sometimes when we are faced with very hard situations or extreme circumstances, or we see something happening in the external world, you say, well, you don't have to judge it, right? And sometimes that can be misused. Again, it's one of these deeper teachings, right? It's like it goes misused and it goes misunderstood. And so it becomes a spiritual bypass. Oh, I'm not judging, I'm just going to let it be. There's a difference between judgment and discernment. This is Shanghai, by the way, in my hand. So judgment is of the mind and discernment is of the heart. And this will help you when we're navigating the womb space to understand not to bypass any situation. So let's be clear. For example, if there's been betrayal in your lineage as a woman, or mistrust, or abuse, any of these things that are deep in the wounds of the feminine, it's not to say that they must go unseen. Never. They should never go unseen. But when we talk about dealing with these things, it's one thing to say to not judge, and it's another thing to say use your discernment, right? You don't have to judge the situation or circumstance and point fingers at the people involved, but you must use discernment, which comes from the heart, to understand this is not in alignment to the divine feminine. So it is very important that we understand the difference between discernment and judgment. Judgment from the mind, discernment from the heart. So when you are able to release yourself from the chains of judgment, always using discernment, of course, but releasing yourself from the chains of judgment, this is when divine will makes itself noticed. This is something that my teacher always says. When judgment is released, divine will comes in. So to allow ourselves to truly push judgment aside, knowing that it is just a chain in our hearts, and allow the divine will to come through. This divine will is going to give us the vitality, the energy to move through healing and to move through creating the new. But we have to release judgment first. And it's a practice. And this practice is what is going to ferment, is what ferments, is what creates, is the foundation to self-love. And self-love, the true frequency of love, this is what the woman desires. This is what the divine feminine yearns for. The divine feminine yearns for the release of judgment so that divine will can come through her and she can experience true love. And just to know that when we have judgment, or that when we receive this initial hit of satisfaction of knowing that you're right over another person, over another experience, over another situation, that spite, that hit of satisfaction, it's like the same hit that the brain gets from social media or from food. It's a very short hit of almost like this darker force that is ignited. It's like feeding fuel to the fire. It feels really good. It feels really good to be able to judge and to say, well, that person is wrong because, or that person did this to me, so I'm allowed X, Y, and Z, or I'm allowed to do this because. When you begin to judge and give yourself power through judgment, it's this revengeful spite. You are feeding the monster within. And that never takes you closer to love. It takes you further and further away from love. There's this famous quote, I don't know who wrote it, but it says, to do something out of spite, hate, vengeance is to win the battle. But just because you won the battle doesn't mean that you've won the war. So basically, you can receive this little spike of, ha, I knew I was right. Ha, I declare this to be mine, or I'm allowed X, Y, and Z because I'm able to judge and say, you're the person X, Y, and Z. You'll feel that hit for a little bit, for a few moments, for a day, for a week. Maybe, some people live with that. Some people choose to live with that feeling of satisfaction from vengeance and judgment, and they can live a lifetime like that. But it doesn't go unseen, and it does not get you closer to love. So it's something to be very wary of and very understanding that and I've seen this, when people live from that place of judgment of I am right and this person is wrong, that revengeful energy will manifest into something else in your reality. And especially if it's something to deal with the womb, sexuality, protection, creativity, vital force energy. If it has to do with something in that chakra, it's going to pull on your vital energy. It's going to pull on your vital sacral sexual force of creativity. So to step into this place of non-judgment is absolutely foundational. So I provided a PDF that will help you open up into what is non-judgment. And it gives you the following questions. Who am I angry with? And I want you to write these down and sit with them, meditate with them, journey with them, come back to them. Who am I angry with? Who or what do I believe is blocking me? Blocking me from expressing, being, showing up, living. Who or what do I believe is blocking me? What is my pattern? What is my emotional pattern? What is my behavioral pattern? Learn your pattern, because when we talk about healing the womb, that is something so deep and sacred. You won't be able to catch yourself, but if you can recognize your patterns, you will. Because it's that sacral chakra, it is so on defense. It is so ingrained in us to react and respond that it's hard for us to catch ourselves. But if you can learn your pattern, emotional and behavioral, you'll be able to catch yourself. Who is hurting me? Who hurts me? Who is taking from me? Who do I believe is taking something from me? Could be anything. What is currently stopping me from being successful? What is currently stopping me from being successful, however success is defined for you? And so I want you to stop right now, put pause on this video, and answer these questions. This is going to be a very important part of healing the womb and healing the relationship with the divine feminine. So go ahead and press pause. All right, welcome back. I hope you actually press pause. And so reviewing all of these answers and sitting with them, you have to be able to feel your answers. Because by feeling them, you may actually find out where these situations, experiences, people lie in your body. You might feel certain hits or certain sensations in your body, and this will reveal a lot of information to you. And so now that you have them written down, in order to come into a place of non-judgment, you have to be very clear about who and what the answer is to each of those. And then come to the place of understanding that it's ultimately you. The answer to all of those questions is just you. If you believe that someone's hurting you or taking from you or stopping you, the practice in itself is asking you to sit into your heart and turn that around and see how you are giving your power away. It's all you. You're just projecting the experiences and the hurt onto other people, into other circumstances in your life. This is so important to sit with as we heal the womb. Now, I want to be very clear that it's not also just jumping into, oh, okay, it's me. Again, this is coming back to the place of understanding discernment. You still have to do the work. You still have to sit with that person. You still have to speak your truth, express yourself. You still have to navigate the experience and point the finger so that you can have discernment in knowing that something went unseen, something was wrong. But to ultimately understand that the relationship between you and the divine feminine is to understand non-judgment and to understand that it's you projecting experiences and circumstances onto another so that you may learn a deeper lesson. And when you can release the judgment of those people and those circumstances and take on the responsibility of bringing it onto you, this is when you release judgment. This is a true activation of non-judgment. And this is you stepping back into your power. And the biggest wound for the divine feminine is having the power, her sacral chakra, being stripped away from her. We have believed that our power has been taken away. And meanwhile, we've had the ability to bring it back onto ourselves the whole time. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes work. But you have the ability to do that. And that is you activating your power and activating the divine feminine within and healing, true healing of the womb. And this is when we talk about cutting cords, because this is a very common practice in the industry of spirituality. We can't actually cut a cord. If you could imagine, like I spoke so many times about the seed, this is the soil. So you have the seed under the soil, and then you have a plant that stems out of the seed, right? When we say cutting a cord, and I have seen this for myself and for others, what we are doing is we are mowing the grass. We're just cutting the weeds, but the root is still there. So because the root is still there, you can do all the cutting cord meditations that you want. You can have all the sessions that you want about cutting cords, but you're not getting down to this. This is always going to be there. It's just going to keep growing, and it'll grow through a different person, through a different relationship, a different circumstance. This is why certain things come up in relationships and you're like, why do all of my relationships look like this? Or why does this always come up through different circumstances? Because the root is still there. This is why it's so important for me to have given you all of the foundation for the healing and all of the foundation for non-judgment. Because the true cutting of the cord is the alchemy, the transmutation of the seed of the cord. When you step into a place of non-judgment and true forgiveness, this ho'oponopono, however you want to do it in your own way, this is when the seed is alchemized. And that is a true transmutation of a pattern, of the Fibonacci sequence that I always talk about, the cellular stamp. But until you step into true forgiveness and true non-judgment and true compassion and true self-love, the cord was always there. It's always going to be there. Because the alchemy happens with this process, you see? So I want to be very clear on that. And also know that in regards to the womb specifically, in regards to healing past relationships, and when I say relationship, I am talking about any interaction sexually that you have exchanged energetic codes. It doesn't have to be fluids. It doesn't have to be sexual fluids. It can be just energetic codes, right? Like there's a very strong connection and attachment to an individual. These codes are exchanged and they are held in our womb. This is why men can sometimes get over certain situations quicker than women, because again, we are the carriers of memory, and they stay in our womb, and we hold these memories for 7 years. They stay in our energetic imprint. So anything that has happened within the past 7 years, and sometimes it can go longer, but for the most part, it's about 7 years. 7 is the cycle of the spiritual journey. So just understand that as we go through the process of healing the womb, there may be things that come up from your past that you thought you had cut the cord, right? So it's allowing yourself to go deeper into that place, non-judgment, self-forgiveness, and allowing yourself to truly integrate that. And you'll see it. You'll start to see it because certain things may start to come up in your dream time. They may not even come up in your physical reality. For a lot of us, the healing happens because the situations will arise, the people will arise from our past in our dream time. And this is your spirit body, right? Because now we're talking about the energy field and the memory in our womb. This is our spirit body asking us, you need to look at this. This is still in your energetic imprint. You have to deal with it. And so I'm giving you the codes to be able to deal with these situations. So understand that things in your past may come up. And this is also an opportunity for you to sit with the belief systems, the religious belief systems, the perceptions, the traditions that have been passed on from your lineage. Do they serve you in helping you transmute these cords? And also know that when we talk about the womb, we're also talking about this cosmic portal that expands across time, right? So you may be healing something that your mom dealt with, but she never cleared. So now you have to clear it. That's why it's so important to do the work, right? Or you may be dealing with something that happened way long before in your lineage, right? They say that we hold about 7 to 11 generations of DNA, closer to 11. And that's held in your womb. It's held in your spine as well, but it's also carried in your womb because we are the creators, the creatrixes. So know that you will be asked to do deep, deep layers of healing through the healing of the womb. And know that this whole entire process is simply coming back to your power. So when we are hurt, when we are angry, when we judge, when we feel defensive, when we blame, these are all opportunities to catch ourselves and realize we're not in our power. I must come back into the divine feminine power. Because a woman in her power, unstoppable. The divine feminine force, once your womb is in this process of healing and understanding, because when you heal your womb, it is you coming back into your power. A woman that has a hurt womb is a woman that does not have true power. She may look like she has power in the external reality in this world, but she doesn't actually fully have her power. And you know when a woman has her power because she doesn't have to flaunt, she doesn't have to prove herself, she doesn't have to blame or shame other people, she doesn't have it, none of that happens. The true power of the divine feminine will arise within you as you work through the healing of the womb, because you are now coming back to the relationship with the divine feminine is what you're doing as you heal the womb. And that's all I have for you for now.